Member for Joondalup.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate the Speaker, Peter Watson, Member for Albany, on his position, and congratulations to all of my colleagues who have been elected to this parliament. I'd also like to thank the parliamentary staff for their support and guidance in the past weeks. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. In what has been considered by some to be a historic win by the Labor Party, it's an honour and a privilege to have been elected to represent the Joondalup electorate. I want to thank the local community for placing their trust in me, and I'll work to ensure that you are represented in this parliament. What has motivated me to be standing here before you today is the want to be part of the machinery that is able to make change, a positive change to improve our community. To provide a voice to those who don't have one, I'm motivated in the want to represent the community that I call home and address the issues that they are facing today, that we are facing today. The current challenge is jobs. People are finding themselves out of work and unable to provide for their families. I'll be addressing this issue, ensuring we deliver local jobs. Joondalup is a young city by any comparison. It used to be a far extension of the Perth metropolitan region and has its roots in the Aboriginal culture. Joondalup is an Aboriginal word of the Noongar people and means lake that glistens. This refers to Lake Joondalup that sits to the eastern side of the electorate, separating the cities of Joondalup and Wanneroo. The 1980s and 90s saw a community begin to emerge in Joondalup, and this was in line with a corridor plan for Perth that was adopted by the state government in 1970. This plan was rooted in the idea of establishing sub-regional areas outside of the CBD. 30 years ago, the road that went to the suburb of Mullaloo was a dirt track. I was at a Mullaloo Surf Lifesaving Awards dinner just the other week and was hearing a story from a gentleman that had been volunteering for the club for the past 35 years. He tells a story of the lengths he had to go to access Mullaloo Beach each weekend for patrol, and it was no mean feat. It was the end of the line, and look how far we've come. We're home to over 27,000 electors, and this number is growing. The Joondalup of today is a magnificent city. While still considered relatively young in age, it has proven itself as a second CBD of Perth. The growth that it has experienced and will continue to experience is overwhelming. Directions 2031 names Joondalup Town Centre as one of 2 primary centres of the Perth metropolitan region. Considered to be the second CBD of Perth, we have world-class facilities on our doorstep. We are leaders in innovation, sciences, home to the education precinct of Edith Cowan University, North Metropolitan TAFE and the Police Academy. We have the Joondalup Health Campus, a leading hospital, and to top it off, we have the largest shopping centre in the Southern Hemisphere. We will become an innovation hub, and I'm excited to see this emerge. We have a lively, inclusive and active community. People are largely invested in the areas surrounding their homes, and the high participation rates in the community, sporting, school groups and organisations illustrates this. Volunteers come from all walks of life, and there is a dedicated and committed number of people that donate their time to these groups, and I commend people for getting involved. Joondalup has always had great local representatives, and I do have big shoes to fill. I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the contribution of Tony O'Gorman, who served 3 terms as the member for Joondalup from 2001 to 2013. I know the electorate valued your hard work and dedication, and your intricate involvement locally resonated. I also acknowledge the work of my predecessor, Jan Norberger. Whilst we differed on the direction for Joondalup, it was clear to me that you were invested in the local community. Western Australia has experienced unprecedented growth and prosperity in the past, but the failure to embrace this and plan coherently for the future has seen the current state of affairs unfold. We could not sustain the path that we were on, and the McGowan Labor government has been elected. We now have a mandate to follow through with our election commitments, and for us, here in Joondalup, this means the Ocean Reef Marina development, the rail line extension to Yanchep, the upgrade and expansion of the Joondalup Health Campus, and varied local projects that will benefit so many and stimulate the jobs market. I want to see opportunities for people living in Joondalup. We need local, secure and sustainable jobs, meaningful paths to employment for our young people, affordable and accessible training and apprenticeship opportunities, and quality healthcare close to home, as well as investment in our local schools. It was very clear that the people of Joondalup wanted to see progress on the Ocean Reef Marina development. It has overwhelming public support, and local residents have a keen interest in seeing construction begin. I'm proud to be part of a government that in 2004 committed funding to the feasibility study on this project. Led by the then Minister, Alana McTiernan, Labor showed that we were going to focus on this project. It's disappointing that the previous government did not make this a priority and rather focus their efforts in the CBD. I'm looking forward to taking my family down to the marina to enjoy a world-class public amenity that will not only be a key economic driver to the region, but it's going to open up the Northern Corridor to an array of tourism opportunities and ongoing employment for local residents. The marina will also become home to the Whitfords Volunteer Sea Rescue Group, amongst other clubs, groups and associations. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge their work. Run by volunteers every moment of every day, they serve the northern coastline, and the efforts is second to none, and we thank you. Being an avid fisher and diver myself, and recognising that a large part of our community enjoy ocean-based sports and recreation, I know that people value the job that you do. Our pristine coastline makes Perth a unique tourism destination. The marina will bring people to the area, it will boost tourism, and will be well utilised by local residents and the wider public, and provide local employment opportunity. On another note, Labor has a proven track record when it comes to building public transport and infrastructure. And we will again see this in action with the construction of the rail line extension to Yanship as part of Metronet. It's true, we, the people of Perth, do have an affinity with our cars, and this is going to be something that's going to be difficult to change, but it's something that can be done over time. It's something that governments have been aware of for a very long time, but congestion is an ever-increasing issue, and it's one that needs to be addressed. Continuing to increase the ability for people to access quality, reliable and frequent public transport options are just one way that we can start to take cars off the road. Joondalup is a dynamic city, but we need multiple city centres in the metropolitan region. This will further ensure that people can live and work locally. Timing is very important in the early stages of new development, and timing of key public transport infrastructure projects is fundamental in orchestrating the best integration of a new satellite city. You need to ensure that appropriate planning is undertaken, and an example of this is what happened in Joondalup. We have a train station in the heart of the city centre which provides a transport link for people to be able to access the city centre with ease. Our commitment to provide a rail line to Yanship now was fundamental in terms of timing, as that city centre is just beginning to come alive. Extending bus feeder services into the suburbs to provide a faster, more efficient way for people to reach the local train station will also get the cars off the road locally. The widening of the Mitchell Freeway is a consideration that does need to be made, with the construction of 3 lanes heading south from Joondalup to Hepburn Ave. Access to quality healthcare close to where people live was a pivotal focus in our Putting Patients First policy. The Northern Corridor of Perth has for a long time been considered one of the fastest growing regions in Australia. We need to make sure that the healthcare needs are being met for everyday West Australians in the outer suburbs. We have a great hospital in the Joondalup Health Campus, but it's the case that it's at capacity. It has the second busiest emergency department in Australia, and it needs to grow to keep up with demand. I'm particularly pleased that a stroke support unit will be located at the Joondalup Health Campus. The Clinical Services Framework highlights the need for a tertiary hospital in Joondalup, and I'm confident in time that is what the Joondalup Health Campus will become. We have seen schools struggle over the past 2 terms. Our children are the leaders of tomorrow, and they need access to quality education. As a mum with 2 school-aged children, I know of the conversations that are happening about what the future looks like for our kids. We will equip our schools with the teaching staff and give them the tools necessary to support our children with the skills they need to navigate a new and ever-changing employment market. Parents are telling me that they're looking forward to education assistants going back in the classroom, and that our focus on science and coding in schools is well met. Many primary schools in Joondalup are already teaching science and coding, and our commitment will provide extra support. On a separate note, I'd like to acknowledge all of the hard work and dedication of parents who have been involved in their local P&C or school boards, and I look forward to working with you. On the topic of education and employment opportunities, investment in TAFE and ensuring it's accessible and affordable is a statewide issue. Ensuring the North Metropolitan TAFE headquarters remain in Joondalup will be important and something that I'll be advocating for. With youth unemployment rates in the northern suburbs at significant levels, we need to make sure that there's a genuine path to employment so that when our young people leave school, they can become contributing members of the community. This in turn will ensure that we build a strong, solid workforce. I don't for a second believe that the high youth unemployment rate is wholly due to the unwillingness, but it is the case that youth unemployment does create social issues and barriers that are wide-reaching, and homelessness is just an example. I had numerous conversations throughout the election campaign with community representatives, and I'm proud of the local projects, local job commitments that we are able to make in Joondalup. This will benefit so many local groups, organisations, the wider community, and will also create jobs. Participation in community sport will continue to grow in the area with the upgrade of the western side of the HBF arena. This will benefit 4 sporting codes in netball, rugby, little athletics and triathlon. Local sporting clubs in the Joondalup Lakers Basketball Club and the Joondalup Women's Football Club will receive funds for new singlets and jerseys. Support for our friends in Yellowgonga Environmental Group will continue, and they'll receive funds to provide environmental projects such as seedling planting, clean-up days and bird boxes. The Joondalup Men's Shed will receive a small grant for upgrades to their equipment, and with over 180 active members, I know that this is welcomed. The Northern Suburbs Stroke Support Group, of which I need to make special mention of Sally Allen, will receive a grant for new T-shirts and also for equipment to provide community support for stroke victims and their carers. Youth Futures, a youth support organisation in Joondalup with CEO Mark Waite, will be able to continue to provide much needed support with a grant towards their Nest project. I've been aware of the good work of Youth Futures for many years, but on hearing about this project, I was pleased to be able to advocate for many young mothers and their children who will be able now to receive support. Otherwise at risk of losing their child or children to social services, the Nest Projects works with women to help them begin their lives again and provide support in gaining further education or employment while teaching them about how to save and plan for their futures. The Pat Giles Centre operates in Joondalup and the surrounds, providing assistance and support to victims of domestic violence. With the increasing number of people living in the northern suburbs, it's unfortunate that demands on service is growing. At the helm is Tilly Prowse, who I know has a lot to offer this sector. A grant will be provided for items to assist the women and children and also provide funds for a family holiday camp. I'm proud to be part of the first government that has appointed a Minister for the Prevention of Family and Domestic Violence. Several local school P&Cs will also be able to invest back into the school with funds provided for things like shade cover sales over playgrounds, smart boards, classroom resources, to just mention a few projects that will be delivered. The Fathering Project is established in several school communities around the state, and one is operating in Currumbine. And there are several other schools in Joondalup that would like to implement this program. With the aim of promoting positive fathering and providing events and activities for fathers to interact with their children, I look forward to seeing these groups flourish. I myself am a member of a number of groups, and one is the Joondalup Business and Professional Women's Association, which strives to promote equal pay and equal representation for women in the workforce. This is something that I strongly support and will continue to advocate for. Another is the Joondalup Rotary Club, a dedicated group that meet on a weekly basis. Solid values who support projects both locally and internationally. Under Labor, we've seen the suburbs flourish and we will see the suburbs flourish and the communities thrive. Under a Labor government, this will be done in a well thought out manner, taking into account the current economic climate as well as the social climate that we need to live in. I'm the eldest of 5 children. My father, David, is a small business owner and my mother a spinal trained nurse. It's a big family for sure, but mum's one of 9 and dad is one of 7, so this number seems just right. Growing up in the northern suburbs, we were just like any other family. Mum and dad worked hard, both professionally and with us at home. We were always involved in community sport and activities, and Mum even drove the school bus to excursions for years. We were all involved in the family business, all helping from a very young age, and I played a role in that during my years while studying at university. Dad has a catering and a canvas manufacturing business, and all three of my brothers work there with Dad today. I graduated from Notre Dame University with a Bachelor of Politics and Law. I enjoyed studying, and the interest that I found in the political and legal systems at high school was furthered at university. Whilst I'm not the first Member of Parliament to have graduated from here, to the best of my knowledge, I'm the first female graduate to become an MP. Upon graduating with a young daughter, I secured part-time employment with the local member for Joondalup at the time and really relished the opportunity to interact with the community and continued in that role for the following 10 years for various members of Parliament in the northern suburbs. It was here that I developed an understanding of the need for participation in the structures that govern our state. I must say that being the 41st member of the government in itself is something to cherish, but being the 30th woman elected to the 40th Parliament is one that I'll never forget. I want to be a strong role model for my daughter, for the young and emerging women of today. There are many issues still being faced by women. I'm excited to be part of a very diverse and representative Parliament, but don't get me wrong, I think that we still have some way to go, but that we are truly on track to reflecting here in this House the communities that we represent. I'm proud to be able to show my children that if you set your mind to something, that there is no stopping you. If you remain true to what you believe, you will achieve it. I see part of my role as a local representative to be a connector in Joondalup and the northern suburbs more widely. We have an amazing community, and by bringing people and resources together, we can actually achieve great things, whether it be from my interactions with local P&Cs and the sharing of information between groups, to the residents' associations who have chairs that are beginning to meet to share ideas. It's that sense of information flow and sharing of ideas that is truly going to allow us to thrive. There is such value that can be achieved by communicating with like-minded individuals and organisations that will then have a flow-on effect and benefit for so many. The decision to run for a seat was not one that I took lightly. I've always had a keen interest in the political system and the ways in which people are able to interact with it or fail to be able to do so. Can I please request an extension?
Extension granted.
Thank you. This was reinforced when 12 months ago I was pre-selected to run for the seat of Joondalup, and I began getting out and speaking to people on the doors and the phones. People were not happy with the government. They didn't feel like they were being represented. They weren't happy with the focus on the CBD at the expense of the outer suburbs. I was talking to traditional Liberal voters who were giving me their vote. People wanted a secure future, cost of living pressures addressed, and the knowledge that their children would have opportunities. I had a drive and a passion that's led me onto the path where I stand today. I've relished the past 12 months, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 4 years in this House. This is not a path that I've walked by myself, and nor would I have got here without the guidance and support of so many, both professionally and personally. I don't think that there's any way that someone could explain to an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son at the time what it means when you say you're going to run for a seat in the WA Parliament. On face value, Maya thought it would be cool to have a mum that was a politician, and Ryan thought it would be fun to be able to go to the dining room. They thought the car being signed up was embarrassing, and the core flute in the garden scattered around the electorate was funny. But my children can be deep thinkers at times, and also very perceptive and considerate. Maya, you're a beautiful young woman. I loved reading your unprompted cards with words of support. And Ryan, on each and every day of those 5 days that it took for Joondalup to be declared, your "Mum, you've got this" comments just kept me focused. To my children, Maya and Ryan, just remember, if you set your mind to something, trust that you will get there. I love you. To my dad, David, and my mother, Angela, who couldn't be here today, thank you. The same goes for my 4 brothers and sisters. Family means everything to me, and whilst not all of you are political in nature, you have supported me and my young family in ways I can never thank you enough for. To my close friends who have supported me, thank you. To my personal mentor, Liz Prime, your words of encouragement and your advice provided me with a stability and sense of comfort throughout the months. I want to thank Emily's List for supporting me and for all the work that you have done to ensure that women receive representation in our parliaments. To have an organisation that not only provides a mentoring role, but also a network of women supporting women ensures that women win. But more than that, the community wins. To the members of Parliament that I've worked for, Tony O'Gorman, Ken Travers and Lane McDonald, thank you. You've carved a path and shown me what it means to be a local representative. To my fellow electorate officers that I've worked with over the years, June, Julie, Chris, Emma and Alex, it was great working with all of you. To the current MPs that have provided me support and kind words of wisdom, thank you. A campaign is always run by a dedicated team that contributes so many hours and personal time. To my director Lane, to my manager Alex, to my finance manager Walt. To the field team in Marcus and Emily, thank you. Words cannot express my gratitude. To the WA Labor team headed up by Patrick and Linda, thank you and congratulations on a well-run campaign. To the union movement, United Voice and the Burgundy Wave, thank you. We need to continue to ensure that working Western Australians are represented. Now more than ever, we need the union movement with a trend towards casualisation of the workforce and underemployment. Thank you to the unions that supported the campaign. We built something here in Joondalup over the past 12 months. We built a movement, a core group of dedicated volunteers that engaged with local residents one-on-one and spoke to them about the issues that they are being faced with and the positive set of policies that Labor has as an alternate government. The Joondalup Community Action Network will ever be known as the engine room of our campaign, and I'd like to thank each and every person that joined me on the phones, the doors, letterboxing, attending community events, and more generally for being active in the community. The tireless effort and countless hours that have been put into the campaign by volunteers since my pre-selection last April has been second to none, and with your help, we have done our part in changing the government. Thank you, and thank you to each and every one of you. I wish I could name you all, but I just can't and I won't because the list is just too long. Thank you to the great volunteers with whom I would never have been able to have taken this seat, and it's great to see some of you here today. We built something and the groundwork has been laid, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversations that we started with local residents over the next 4 years. Values that I hold dear are those of equality, fairness and opportunity, and they are the values that I will continue to advocate for and endeavour to represent. Standing here in this House, in the Legislative Assembly of Western Australia, has bestowed an innate sense of responsibility to ensure that I'm advocating for the people of Joondalup and all that that entails. I've taken time to reflect, many days and hours, over what I wanted to say in my inaugural speech, and I kept coming back to this. Be the change that you want to see. I consider the northern suburbs of Perth the best place to live, and I consider Joondalup our home. I look forward to working with the community to deliver local jobs and continue the growth. Here, this seat in this House is not to be taken for granted. Grassroots level engagement is the cornerstone of our democratic process, and it's what I'm striving to represent. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker. Member for Burns Beach.